Good morning, everybody. I hope you're well. I'm going to say it. It's hump day. I know. I'm that old. Apparently, it's a really old thing to say, but that's the way it goes. How are you all? I hope you're very well here this morning. We have got, obviously, another outstanding day coming up for you today. I'm going to go through it. We have producing Q&A with the fabulous Michael James Cox coming up in a second. Then we have what is he? He's a force of nature. Matthew Shaw, old school legit versus modern legit, recontextualizing musical numbers for cabarets with Grace Taylor. Juggle Fitness comes here, Lydia Shaw at 3 o'clock, and then we finish off with a contemporary dance, Gregory Haney, and it's all free. What can I say? Couple of great things today, so that you know us here, we try and link some things up sometimes. So we've got talking about producing, we'll talk about, self-producing, if that's a possibility, and things to watch out for. Linking, I know, with Grace about cabaret, right? And how to create your own cabaret, or how you might look at these songs and how you can recontextualize to create your own work. And what a great thing to be able to do right now when, in this struggling time, you need to look to yourself to create those opportunities for you, and we're all about that. A couple of things, exciting things. We have announced Shona Mason won the singingdemos.co.uk free video vocal reel, so congratulations to Shona, absolutely brilliant. Email us, Shona. And the other thing, we're going live. I don't know if you've seen on social media. I mean, we're not that present, but we are going to be bringing Collective Creative Initiative live. Like, you can touch people. Well, you can't touch people because you'll be socially distanced, but you'll certainly be able to see real human beings. And two amazing things about that is that you'll be able to work with not only a lot of the fabulous practitioners that we have had here on the CCI, so you'll be able to see them real. I still feel like if I attended, I would carry my laptop around, still, even though I was in a studio. So you have that. But the thing that excites me the most is that you'll all be able to meet each other, and that's bonkers. So you'll be in a room with other CCI alumni, and you'll be able to dance with them and act with them, not touch them because you will be socially distanced. We'll be doing that up at Luton Who. We have partnered with the wonderful Talent Artistic Group, and they have the most incredible studios up there, which I must tell Michael about as well. Two huge rehearsal studios where we can safely socially distance everyone to do class. I mean, they're hangers. They are absolutely huge, and it's a beautiful place. Very, 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 very limited numbers so that we can keep that social distancing. If you want to join our mailing list, it happens on the 14th and 15th of November. If this goes well, we will do more, trust me. There is a fee for this as well. It's outside this platform, so there is a fee so we can make it happen. If you want to join the mailing list, connect at collectivecreativeinitiative.co.uk. I know. When we came up with the name and then we got the email address, we were like, what the hell? What are we doing? So connect at collectivecreativeinitiative.co.uk. That's where you can go. That's enough. I've spoken enough. Let's bring in the outstanding, the incredible Michael James Cox. How are you doing, sir?
I'm all right. How are you?
All right. Thank you for joining us. Where are you in the world?
I'm in Cheshunt, near Enfield. Lovely. I've just noticed my plant is dying. So wish I'd moved that before.
Actually, it looks quite lively, so it's
all right.
Alive to us. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. That's all right then. Whew.
And what's the weather? I'm actually roasting here down in Sussex.
So hot. It's really thick, dense air. It's not nice. Our house faces the sun, so it's like the magnifying glass constantly. It's not nice. It's not nice.
It.
Yeah.
So, who is Michael James Cox? Tell us about you. Where did you start? We'll come on to where you work now, but what's your journey like? Did you start as an actor? Did you do a degree in business? Where did it all start for you?
Yeah, so for me, I thespied for a while. I tread those boards. So I trained to be an actor, and about 2 years after I left drama school, I realised I wasn't getting much work. So I thought, I can't be that good. So me and a friend of mine actually thought, okay, let's create our own show. So we did. We commissioned a comedian randomly that we saw one night to write a show for us to star in it, of course, to be the lead. And about 2 weeks into sort of like developing the script, we realised it was very, or I personally thought it was very self-indulgent to be in it and to produce it. Of course, I know a lot of people do that, but for me personally, I was a bit like, I can't do both. I just want to focus on one. So I just thought, I'll honestly, I thought I'll be the big boss. I'll produce it. Yeah. So I did it. It was just a little show at the Lion and Unicorn Theatre in Kentish Town. Did that, and it did all right. I think it made the smallest of profits, which didn't think that was a thing.
Well done.
Yeah. And I was like, I quite like this. This is not too bad. So then, whilst I was doing that, my main job was I was working at the New Wolsey Theatre in Ipswich. And I was getting sort of a lot of help and advice from Sarah Holmes, the chief exec there. She was sort of showing us like what path to go down. She was amazing, like really, really helpful. So then, yeah, so I told her that I want to get into producing. Can have got any producing jobs for me at the Wolsey? She immediately said no. Like, are you joking? And then luckily 2 weeks later, we started working with Grey Eye Theatre Company on a big outdoor festival. And she actually came up to me and said, oh, do you want, to come on board as a bit of a trainee producer? I'll show you the way. I was like, yeah. So it kind of just went from there. So I worked with Grey Eye in the New Wolsey Theatre, co-produced that. It was amazing. It was so good to work with all these different sort of collaborators. It was so exciting. And then obviously the next step was the West End. So what a fool. So I literally just emailed 4 or 5 different West End producers. I actually think, if I'm being completely honest, it was after the after party of this show I just produced, The Iron Man. So I was a bit squiffy, and I emailed like 4 or 5 different producers. Mark Goucher got back to me and said, oh, there might be a job. Do you want to come and have an interview? And it sort of went from there, really. Sheer luck. Like, literally, there's no job advertised. It was just a lucky email. Right?
I think I have other things, but since you said luck, I have this very kind of interesting relationship with luck, and I believe that it doesn't really fully exist. Yeah. Yes, there are moments where you go, wow, that was lucky. But I truly believe that luck comes from actually doing and actually getting out there. And because if you hadn't written those emails, then you wouldn't be sitting here going, well, yeah, I was lucky, because you hadn't done anything. And I think that's a really important thing when people look at other people who may have had successes or, God, they're so lucky. I guarantee they're working really, really, really hard. And it was Arnold Palmer or Gary Player, who just won some major, the US Open or whatever it is, and an interview said, oh, you're really lucky out there today. And he was like, yeah. He said, do you know what? It's really interesting, because the more I practice, the luckier I become. And, sort of saying, are you joking? I practice like 10 hours a day, you moron. And guess what? My job is to hit a ball in a hole. That's not luck. I'm supposed to do that. And I think that... And I really do. I think that, so many people can complain and go, oh, nothing ever happens for me. But what have you done? What have you done today to get that luck? And of course there is luck. Of course there is, in essence. But I believe that it's through hard work that those lucky moments come. I think that's for me. I want to go back on something which I think so a big thing right now that we are focusing on is, and we chat a lot, we do lots of mentoring outside of CCI, is about that creating your own work thing. And especially now, we can't look to the big boys. We can't look and go, give me a job, because they're struggling. So it's about that. And I think it's, I talked about this right at the beginning of lockdown. There's almost like, I graduated in the mid-90s, and there was lots of kind of guerrilla theatre, just people just going out and doing it. And I did it myself. I was like, I want to be a director. So I just went and directed plays, or I just put stuff on. I just did it. But actually, I think it's really important. There's almost like a renaissance now within the industry that is going to focus on that. So commissioning someone, can you talk through that? Because I think there will be people out there that will be like, I've got these ideas, but I'm not right. I don't know. I think it's shit. How did you do that? What was your approach to commissioning someone? Something for you? Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Basically, so my friend and I had sort of decided that that we were going to produce our own show starring us. We'd gone back and forth. We sort of looked at, because I was working at the theatre as well, my head was all very artsy and very like, oh, we could do this, oh, we could do that. And we looked at plays that we could do. We looked at sort of subjects that we could try and tackle through a play. But we could never really agree or decide on what sort of route we wanted to go down, because I think our plan originally was to develop and write the script ourselves as well. In the end, we both said, look, we're going back and forth. We don't know what we want to do. Let's take this out of our hands and go from there. And we started searching for writers, and we didn't really know where to look. And we just went to a comedy night with a few mates, and this comedian came up, and we were like, thankfully he's funny as comedians are. And we were like, oh, he's all right. And then we sort of started speaking to him after and said, oh, we got into the subject of us wanting to do a show. And he said, oh, I'm a writer as well. Let me write a show for you, basically. So we thought, we'll take a punt. And we just said, okay, send us a draft and we'll go from there. And then we got a director on board from this draft and said, okay, now let's start developing the script, because obviously it's not going to be perfect straight away. So we got
a thing. I want to stop you on that because it's a really important thing. It's not going to be perfect straight away.
No, it wouldn't.
Take time, right?
Oh yeah, it took us a solid 18 months to develop it, and that was just from us getting this draft copy of the script to then sitting with a few mates in a rehearsal room and going, let's read it out loud and see what sounds a bit naff, see what sounds really good, like the character arc of certain characters, the whole story arc, and then doing that, you sort of realize what worked, what didn't. And then we got a director on board, and Matt, the writer, was so open to ideas. His ego didn't get in the way. He was great, and he just took it all in like a sponge, and he's like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. So I think if you've got good collaborators that you trust, because personally, after a while, I sort of didn't really do much. I just sat back and let them sort of do their magic, and I just sat in the room and nodded once in a while and laughed. It was really, really good. It was really nice because I think we had a lot of friends to do it as well. There was a real sense of in it together from the beginning. And then, but I think me and my friend also said, you kind of got to put your boundaries in and say, look, just because you've done the reading doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be in the final version. There was a few tough conversations, but developing it was so exciting. But like I said, it took a solid 18 months of us in a rehearsal room, then the director coming on board. And then even in the rehearsal room, it developed and grew and into something that was really, really good. Something I was really proud of. Yeah, they did a great job.
I think that with that as well, it's recognizing that sometimes what your initial journey and idea might be. So initially it was, let's do something. I'm not getting any work. Let's create our own work. Let's get on that stage. Let's be seen, etc., etc. I think it's really important for any creative in any area of creativity to know that their journey might change. So like, you started off and then you found this other love and passion. And then you were sensible with yourself going, wait a minute, this is crazy. I like this job. And I think there's that as well. I think that, if you I want to be an actor, if you don't keep slightly open to, oh, well, actually, I'm quite a good director, or yeah, actually, I produce this. I think that's really important.
I think what else is really important is self-awareness and sort of self-analyzing your own strengths and weaknesses, because you might be the driving force of the show because you want to be in it, but then when it's on stage, you might be the weakest link, and it'll go downhill from there. So I think, which I think I would have, if I was on that stage, I wouldn't. Everyone was great, and I would have been mediocre at best. Whereas I think if you can self-analyze and self-aware of your own strengths and weaknesses and other people's strengths and weaknesses, and don't let ego get in the way, then I think you stand in good stead, 100%. Yeah.
I go into a lot of drama schools and do workshops and give talks and stuff. And I sit there, and when there's like 20 kids in front, and I go, you 5 will end up being directors, you'll be stage managers, you'll be producers, you'll be writers, you'll be here, and you 2 will be actors still in 20 years. And it's that thing of like, and they all sit there going, no, surely I will be a Wicked. I'm Wicked only, and that's it, that's my life. And like, no, probably not, Yeah. But I think it's having acting as your initial introduction and training, because that's realistically, when you're a kid, you don't see what the stage manager does, or you don't necessarily see what the grip does on a film. You see what the actor does. So you want to be an actor, or you might go, oh, I'd love to create something like that. I want to be a director. But it was, I remember my brother saying, he used to watch films and then he wanted to be whoever was last, because the last person was most important. So he went between wanting to be a director and a producer. I thought, that's actually quite a good way to see it. All right, you want to be
I guarantee 95% of producers were actors. 100%.
Exactly. Yeah. It's important, and it's important to, and I also think it's important to say yes. So when I was an actor starting out, I said pretty much yes to everything, in terms of like, oh, James, we're doing this fringe production. We need a stage manager. I'm like, yes, I'll give that a go. I was literally, what's brilliant about doing it is I now know, I respect that role. Obviously, I mean, I always have, but from a very early age, I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. And B, I was so bad at it. I mean, so absolutely horrendous at that role. I forgot to give Act 2 beginners calls. I did the wrong sound cues. I forgot to set props, really important props. It was an absolute shocker.
I bet they're really glad they asked you.
Because I'll never do it again. And I'll never sit at home going, oh, I wish I'd really like to be a stage manager. Hell no. Yeah. So I think it's really important to sort of say yes to lots of things and to learn. I was asked, but again, in a fringe production like that I was in, so-and-so's not turned out. And I heard this conversation between the producer and director, we've got this set to paint. I was like, I'll do it. They're like, no, you need to rest. Nah, I saw it. And I painted the set and I put up the lights and I burnt my fingers and all that. But I learned so much for them.
I think, I went wrong when I was producing at The Lion and Unicorn was I was quite ignorant to a lot of those roles.
Right.
And because obviously I went straight to acting into producing. And I really wish I'd done that more, because I think I didn't get the best out of that team purely because I was ignorant to the roles. So I agree. I think that's a really, really good point, is to do as much as you can. 100%.
Definitely. If you are watching and you want to ask any questions, you have to be a subscriber. In the comments section, you can post questions. Please, no swearing. And I will come to those as we go. Don't save them all to the end, because there is a delay when you ask a question to when we get it. Well, there can be. So please feel free to ask any questions. If you're watching and you're not a subscriber, subscribe. And then you can also ask questions. So the other thing is about, so Rosie and I, when we worked on ships as vocalists, we wrote a Christmas show and produced it and staged it, directed it, musically directed it, lit it, costumed it. We did the whole thing, and we did it as like an experiment. And the cruise ship was like, yes, we will do this. And we were just going to do it once, and it was actually so amazing they replaced one of their other multi-million-pound shows. Anyway, but we did everything, and it almost broke me in half.
Yeah, how did you not die?
And we were in it. But it's that thing of like, I'm a great believer, and I don't think you should ever be in something and be the writer and director and producer, even if it's your own stuff. What your feelings on that?
I agree. I think you get too lost in sort of the metaphorical jungle. You can't see the wood from the trees if you're doing everything and you're in it. I don't. And plus, you burn yourself out, and by the time opening night comes, you're screwed. It's like I don't think you should try and do everything. And plus, you know, you don't know your own skill set. You might be terrible at writing, and nobody else is there to tell you, actually, James, this is a bit naff, mate.
Yeah.
I 100% agree that you need a team around you. Like, otherwise, the show would be rubbish, I think. Obviously, yours would not.
It's outstanding. 5-star rating.
I think in general.
But we listened to people. So it wasn't that we did it. We did everything because we had to do it to get it on. But
Yeah.
we had someone, you know, a really amazing lighting guy, but that we worked with, and we had a choreographer who was outstanding that we worked with, and we had teams of people like the wardrobe mistress on board was our wardrobe, and help. So we definitely had people, and they were very open to say that doesn't work, that's not that, and we were open to listen by 100%. Because I think it's so important to have that team around you, and I think it shows maturity to be able to say, I hand this to you, you know, and then actually once you've done that, you sort of get over the control freak thing. You start to go, oh wow, okay, yeah, I'd never have done that. I'd never have thought of that, or that looks outstanding. So so today, tell us about Michael James Cox today. Where are you? What are you doing? What's your journey?
Yeah, so I worked at Mark Goucher's for 4 years. Worked on some really good shows: Hairspray, Jeeves and Wooster. That was amazing. Chorus Line, really big West End stuff. It was so much fun. And then I worked for Bill Kenwirght for 2 years. Again, worked on Blood Brothers, Evita, Joseph. And now I'm at Selladoor. My role is programming manager. And that entails programming all of the tours. So that means I'm working on Footloose, Bring It On. Trying to think of shows that we've announced.
Yeah,
shows that are coming next year that I don't know if we've announced yet. So then my job is to sort of make sure it goes out on tour, essentially, that we go to all the right theatres, that we get the right deals to make the show run, essentially. And also on the flip side of that, Selladoor own a couple of venues. So we've got Peterborough New Theatre, Barnstaple Queen's, Ilfracombe Landmark theatres. And my job is to reverse what I do. I also program the venues. So then people like myself would ring me up and be like, I've got a show. Do you want it? And yes, I do. So that's my job. It's tough because I've got two different hats on as a producer, a programmer, and then a programmer of the tours, and then a programmer of the venues. And if you get me when I'm hungover, then sometimes I'll give you the wrong deal and your quid's in. So if you know I've had a night out, call me the next day.
Talk us through like the day in the life of a programmer. Like what does that look like? Do you like, with regards to the programming for the theatres, do you go out and also call people up and say, I've seen this show, this would work really well for us? Is that a big part of your job?
Yeah, that's exactly what we do. So we get like invites to go see shows that we might not particularly know about. So then we would go see the show. And even if we don't take that show, 9 times out of 10, we would go and watch it for the quality of the production. So then we know, okay, cool, this show might not work well with our Barnstable audience, for example, but we now know the quality of this producer's work. So yeah, we do that a lot. We also call, you know, the big producers to get the big shows in. Commercially, every venue needs to do that to get the money in, and it's just a case of getting the balance of the season right and knowing your audience. So say, for example, the Peterborough audience is completely different to Ilfracomb's audience, for example. Right. So, I mean, 9 times out of 10, we would. So, for example, we've got Oti Mabusi coming to our venues, and I know she would work in both venues.
Yes.
Where I don't know, say an evening with Sir Geoff Hurst would only work in Peterborough, not in Ilfracombe. Yeah. So, and also financially, and if the show fits and things like that.
And also Ilfracombe, you've got two, because I grew up in South Devon, so know all that area really well. You've got two audiences within a year as well, because you've got your summer audience, and then you've got the people, once all they call grockles have gone, you've now got who's left there. So it's almost like you've got the two. You got
What?
that grockles, holiday makers. We call them grockles. Yeah.
So we saying that we've just done a socially distanced summer festival in Ilfracombe for grockles, and it worked fantastically. And then so now we're like, okay, how do we build on that? And Dave at Selladoor is such an amazing driving force for what do you do next? What do we do next? What do we do next? And I'm like, oh god, I don't know. We've just finished the season. Let me just take a break. But no,
tell us about that, because that came around quite quickly as an idea to delivery. So how did things like that work? Like, how do you, when in a time when no one is producing, when no one is actually doing anything, where there are no shows, or that you can, like, there's nowhere to go and find. How do you go? Where do you start finding shows? Because let's say in a normal environment, you go, oh, there's that going up at Edinburgh. Yeah, that's perfect. Let's bring that down. Or Brighton Festival. Let's bring that. That's the norm, right? But when there's nothing going on, how do you find stuff?
So I'm a massive advocate of social media, and basically, when it got announced that you could start doing outdoor performances again, there's a great influx of amazing companies out there that specialize in outdoor performances. Right. So they were straight on the phone saying, if you've got any outdoor space, and Dave actually just put a tweet out saying, look, we're thinking of doing a summer festival, hit us up. Basically, and they did, and it made my job a lot easier. It was just a case of just sifting through what we think would work together within 5 days. And we had, we had A Midsummer Night's Dream, we had The Wind in the Willows, then we had La Femme, which was singing vintage songs, beautiful, like on Ilfracombe, looking over the sea, and we had some comedians. So it was just a case of getting the balance of what would work, and it was, I'm not going to say it was easy. It was still really difficult, but because there is such a plethora of amazing companies out there that are so versatile, they were really, really helpful. They were great.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And so Selladoor. So that's that side of it. Now, going out and selling your shows to other venues. Yeah. Some might think that's fairly easy. Like, you've got this big show, isn't that must be simple just to chuck it in? Yes, of course we want it. What are you offering? Yes, no problem. Yeah, of course. Great show. Let's have it.
Honestly, it's really it's not. It's awful. It's difficult purely because of the sheer volume of amazing shows out there. We've got Footloose, which normally runs as a week-long, great show. And then, you've got The Book of Mormon, which is this big West End juggernaut that sits down in theatres for 4 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, right. Okay. So, and also knowing how I have to balance the season in a venue, I also know venue managers have to do the same and know, for example, Footloose could not go within 3 weeks of another 80s musical or things like that. So the venue managers are also thinking about that. But then on top of that, the way we program, I can't program us to do Footloose in Inverness and then the next week it be in Plymouth. So then I've also got to think of that. But then also saying that I also can't do Footloose being in Oxford and then the next week being in Aylesbury, because then they're too close to each other.
Right.
So it's a case of just getting the routing balanced right, the venues, also the venue deals that we've got to do, make sure that, I'm a big advocate of, without theatres, there would be no shows. So some producers I know go very hard on the deals, and I don't necessarily agree with it sometimes, because I think it needs to be a fair-ish balance. Obviously, the producer is taking the bigger risk, so the balance should be in favour of the producer, but it shouldn't be so, 95-5. that it's just not fair. So it's a case of trying to get that balance with the venues as well. It's all about relationship building and just making sure that people trust you and know that I'm trying to do the best for both sides, I think.
I think it's that wonderful thing. Again, it's a point that you came up about, not getting the best out of your team and not necessarily knowing what other people do. And I know certainly as a young actor when I toured, and I know probably every other young actor out there has gone, oh my God, where are we next week? Why can't they put us here? Why can't, and so it's your fault. It's you.
Oh, it's 100% my fault. Yeah. I remember one time, a rather well-known Coronation Street actress did a piece in a paper, I can't remember what it was, about routing, and I was like, oh, that was all me. Really sorry about that. But then there's not much. Sometimes that's the only week that's available, and it's a really good venue, and you don't want to miss out. So absolutely. But no, it's all on me. I'm really sorry about that. I try my best, but sometimes, when this actor wrote this piece, I was semi-tempted to frame it.
So were you doing Inverness, Southampton?
It was like the start. I don't even think it was that bad. I think it was like Cardiff to Hull or something daft like that. And I was like, oh, all right.
Brilliant. I mean, the interesting thing is, I've been very lucky now to have travelled a lot, and before I did, and especially with work, like I used to think, oh God, to plan to go anywhere over 150 miles. I mean, it was months of planning, months and months. And then when I came back from all my travels and having toured like in Germany, Germany's a massive country, and I did this one tour where I averaged it out over the whole tour. We did around 500 kilometers a day on the tour bus, and there were one-nighters, and there was none of that. You went everywhere. It was insane. Wow. And it was crazy. We did a 300 kilometer drive. So you literally get up at like 7:38 in the morning, have your breakfast, get on the coach with your duvet, go to sleep, drive all day, get to the venue, do your sound check, go and get some food. But there were twice where we were at the venue and they were like, normally they'd try and drop us at the hotel first and drop our stuff. But this one, twice, the venue was wherever it was, and the hotel was 170 kilometers away. So we would get on the bus after, travel 170 kilometers to the hotel, because the tours that they'd done before, and they'd done so many, all the hotels in the area wouldn't take them because the musicians used to get drunk in the pools at 1 a.m. and all this, and there were no hotels. So they would have 170 kilometers.
Okay, I don't feel so bad about my routing now. That's fine.
I tell you, I grew. I grew. I learned.
Oh my God, that's gross. That's
brutal. And it was in winter, driving through snow and all that. It was brilliant.
Was it a big cast? Or
was that?
Was it a big cast?
There were 25 orchestra. It was 25 orchestra, or I'll get this right, about 10 choir, and then there were 6 leads.
So fairly big then.
Yeah, massive.
What an operation!
Imagine hoteling all of that lot.
I used to do that. So I worked on Slava's Snow Show years ago, and my job was to do that so they would come over, and it was a lot of Russian clowns, genuine clowns. Wasn't insulting anyone, and they came over, and it was my job to do the routing for them, for their hotels, etc. And their demands were brilliant.
That actually comes to Sam saying, "What is the worst routing you have done?"
The worst routing I've ever done was 100%. I joked about it, but it was Aberdeen to Brighton. I've definitely done before on a play as well. So I've definitely done Aberdeen to Brighton. Think that's the one that sticks out the most. I got a good.
It wakes you up at night.
You what? Sorry.
It wakes you up at night. You go, oh, Aberdeen to Brighton.
Literally. And I was like, I'm on Tuesday opening. We can't open Monday. But I think I realised once I'd confirmed that I'd done Aberdeen to Brighton, so then I had to quickly ring the venue and be like, please, can we open Tuesday? They were very sweet and said yes. So yeah, I think that's the worst.
Sam says he did Edinburgh to Torquay. Wonderful. Oh my.
with me, Sam, or
with Michael. We'll come back to that.
Yeah.
So fantastic. So what, like when you're, I mean, the whole programming, your show's out there. No, he says no. So at any one time, how many shows are you trying to program?
The most I've worked on is 8 at the same time. Yeah, that was tough. But to be honest, I also really enjoyed it because it was such a mix of different shows. You know, one time it would be a really big musical, and then the next show would be a play with 6 characters in. So then I couldn't take, you know, this big musical to Edinburgh Playhouse, but also this tiny play with 6 people in to Edinburgh Playhouse. So then it'd be a good mix of venues. But then also at the same time, if I did have 3 big musicals, I could have 1 phone call and get 3 what we call pencils into one theatre. So it was tough. It's hard to sort of try and keep on top of things, but I'd much prefer to be busy and know that we've got a lot of good stuff going out rather than nothing.
So young producer out there, maybe they are now their 3rd or 4th show in. So they've, you know, done a few fringe, maybe they've done a festival, maybe they've done that 400-seater, something like that. Now they have this product that they think is going to work. How do they find these venues? How is there like a place to go to find the venue? So if they are like, oh, we are going to work in 4 to 600-seater venues, where do they find them? How do they program their own?
I don't know. That's actually a really good question. I don't think there is. Not to my knowledge. I just go off. Well, I mean, I've been doing it for so long. I sort of know the venues anyway. I don't think there is like a portal, for example, that people can go to. I mean, I think it might just be a case of Googling 400 to 600 seat theatres and going from there. But that could be a thing that could work. I know obviously you would hit up the venues, you know, the ATG venues. I know they don't have 400 to 600 seats, but you'd go to APG or HQ and go to the big sort of the big, you know, companies that own a lot of venues and go from there. But I know Barnstable Queen's Theatre has 600 seats, so just get in touch. But yeah, it's actually really hard out there if you don't know already, and it's also quite hard to know if you are a new producer, and because not only do you have to do a deal that's right for your show, there's also sort of lots of little things thrown in there, like how many crew do the venue supply for free, or how many crew would the venue pay for? How much marketing are the venue going to put towards the show, if any at all? So it's a lot of little nuances that could really, if you don't look it over, that could really hurt you as a company without you realizing that it could come and bite you. Yeah.
I'll come into some detail on that there. You've sort of sprung a question in my mind. Sam says, you are too good a negotiator. So no, it wasn't with you. So this is a really nice point, actually. So you've got this show and you're calling around all these venues. Give me five things you must ask the venue. As that producer, 5 things that you learnt the hard way, maybe, when you were starting out, or maybe somebody told you. I mean, I know there are 100, but let's just say here are the obvious ones. You know, do you have ushers? Do you do this? Will you put us in your marketing program? They're the things you might go, I can see what the visual things. But I'll start. The techie one is massive, because obviously, let's say you're doing 10 venues. Let's say we'll stick around the 600 seater because not everyone's going to have, something can fill an ATG. Let's say that. You call up those venues, they're not likely to have a full tech team there for you, are they?
Oh, no. So they will have people, they will have enough hands around, but the venue normally only pay between 2 to 4 people for you. Or they give you the actual standard practices, they normally give you a certain amount of hours that they would pay for, and then you pay for the rest of the crew. So it's not like you have to find the crew. The venue find the crew, but you pay for them.
Yeah.
So you just have to negotiate how many hours of crew the venue would pay for. And obviously the more hours that the venue agree to, the less it'll cost you. So yeah, that's a really good point. And I guess just sticking on the tech side, I know it sounds really daft and you would think obvious, but you have to make sure the show fits. Like you have to.
That is a really good thing. Yeah, absolutely.
You have to make sure it fits. Because I've taken a few gambles on shows that, for want of a better word, have been shoehorned in, but have sold really well. So we've taken that gamble, but then it could really come and, not fit. And you find that out on the day, and then you have to saw your set in half or do something that comes back really costly 2 months down the line, and it could really come and hurt your overall, profit and loss sheet, I guess. So yeah, make sure the set fits. Make sure if there's going to be an orchestra pitting, that's always a big one. I think
lighting. Make sure they have enough the right lights that fit your production.
No, that's not.
You tour
yeah, you just tour most of the lights. But again, that would come under the tech rider of you see the lighting rig and see if it fits. Another big one for me is to ask what the gross potential of the venue is going to be. So you would look at ticket pricing, and you also need to make sure that you're sort of not outpricing your customers, but then you're also not underselling yourself. And you need to make sure that obviously, so the gross potential is how much money you could take if you sold 100% capacity with the certain amount of ticket prices in certain amount of tier bands over 8 performances. So you need to make sure that it's a good gross potential. Because if it's rubbish and you don't even cover your running costs, then there's literally no point in going. And that's where theatre's going down the pan at the minute, is because you just can't cover your running costs and socially distanced theatre for the minute.
Two things I'm going to talk about. One is percentage breakdown between theatre and producer. You mentioned that earlier. I would love you to explain that. And the other thing is percentage. What do you think, young producers out there? Because I know, not in a producing form, but as a creative, and we've come in and we've chatted with maybe a company. This was either when I was an actor or directed or now casting, and I hear their percentage, their what they've done their budget on as a percentage, and I'm sitting there going, I don't think we should be involved in this because they are not going to. They're not realistic. So what else isn't realistic? Yeah. What is a realistic? When you're sitting there doing your budgets, what should someone be looking at in terms of house percentage? I know you do it at different levels, but what would you say, what percentages would you want?
An average house sell. It's tough, really. The way, so in my head that I work it out is I would look at the running costs of the show and then look at, I'm in a very lucky position because we've got a lot of historical data that I can sort of put it against and be like, okay, well, this show didn't sell that well, or that show sold amazingly well, so let's average it out essentially. But if it was the first time going to a venue, I would look at your running costs and then look at the percentage break even of the house, and if it's sort of 65% or under, I think you're fine. I think.
Explain that. So that's the other thing, that producer venue split. Can you explain what that means and how that works?
So say for example, if I was going to ring a venue and say I want a deal with royalties. So royalties is where the director will get a cut. PRS will go to it, things like that. So writers' royalties that we have to pay for. So I'd ask for a royalty first, which is just standard practice. And then there's lots of different tiers of deals. But if we're going to talk just about the split deal, the standard is, well, my standard is 85-15, but the normal standard is probably 80-20. So
Right.
80-20 means after royalties, the producer would take 80% of the box office, which is net box office. And then you would take 20% net box office. Now, I have like internal struggles in my head on what sort of a good deal is, because sometimes you could ask for a first call deal, which essentially means, off the top of my head, if I ask for a first call of 100 grand, the producer takes the first £100,000 in the bank, and then the venue would take the next 20 grand, and then it sort of breaks down like that. But then also, in my head, sometimes I think, okay, if we were going to do a split deal, that's actually a really good incentive for the venue to work harder, because if the venue is going to get 20% of the net box office, they're going to want to absolutely push that show to the max. So I guess you need to know how good the venue is, really, how good the venue's team are, the venue's marketing team, how proactive they are. There's a lot of thought that goes into, I would not just ring a theatre and be like, okay, let's do a royalties 80-20, that's fine, because that could go awfully wrong if you don't do your research first. But yeah, so I would say, so a split is pretty straightforward. 80% goes to the producer, 20% goes to the venue.
So amazing. Thank you so much on that. A big thing that people talk about a lot is names in shows. Having a name in a show, and I was chatting to a producer when actually we were up in Liverpool, and about this and this subject, and they were saying that why they, I don't want to preempt, but why they get a name into a show, and because a lot of people are like, but what, especially on a tour, why a name for a show? Why would you put a name in a show?
I think because there is so much content out there, and sometimes you could charge £60 a ticket, and that's a lot of money. Like £60 for one person is a lot of money. So then, as a producer, you need to make sure that you deliver on that £60. And also I genuinely think it's audience recognition as well. You would want to go see Footloose starring Gareth Gates rather than Footloose not starring anyone. I think, and also it brings in a different audience. You get the theatre audience, which just love to go to the theatre, love Footloose, will go see anything, but then you will also get Gareth Gates fans that might not come to the theatre. So there's a whole new demographic that we're now introducing into theatre. So it is a double-edged sword, because I also understand why people sometimes have a problem with having names in shows. But unless you've got a Les Mis or a Phantom, that in itself is the brand.
Yeah.
People might hate me for this, but I would always put a name in a show.
But also, it's as this producer said, and this is, and I thought is really good and important point, is that name will get you onto the one show and get you in the press.
Oh, so much press.
All of that. And they do, because I know when they're on tour, we know a lot of people that are, inverted commas, names and stuff. We've cast them, a lot of people ourselves, and there are a large number that are friends. They work so hard. They literally, every morning they're on something. They're on a radio call, or I know between shows they don't get a break. They have press in their dressing rooms. They're eating, like, whilst they're chatting to the reporter of, and so there's all of that comes with it as well, isn't there?
Oh, 100%. If you can get them on a sofa, then it does sell tickets. It's right. That's completely right. Yeah. It's we need names in shows at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what is it can be more, but what is the one piece of advice that you would have told yourself starting out as a producer?
Oh, Christ. What would be the one?
Like lots of advice, but is there something that stands out?
I think it would be take more risks and follow your gut a lot more. I think there's times where I wished I'd taken a risk and listened to my gut instinct, and I didn't. And I think I wish I did, because I'm very proud of my work ethic, and I'm sure everybody who's listening works extremely hard. That's not a thing. I think just take risks. I think
there's something, and sort of goes nicely right back to when you started out. And it's, again, when I started out, I wanted to direct. I wanted to direct stuff. I wanted plays, not musical. I wanted to direct. And the first thing I was ever in, Carol Metcalf, who used to run the Bridewell Theatre, said to me, "Do you know you'd be a really good director?" And I was an actor. It was the first. I just graduated. I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." So then I got in a show in town, and I called her up. I was like, "Hi, do you remember you said this? I want to assist you." And she was like, "Okay." So I assisted her on a musical called On the 20th Century. And then I was like, "Right, okay." I learned quite a bit from that. Right, I'm going to direct. So I called her up again and was like, "Hi, Carol, do you remember you said I should direct?" Like, yes. I was like, "I would like to direct." And I presented these play ideas for Lunchbox Theatre, because as an actor, I'd done a few of these Lunchbox Theatres for her.
Yeah.
Right, okay. And I said, "I think doing Lunchbox Rep would be really great. And there are these plays, and you could do one like, every other day you could swap them around." She's like, "Oh, that's a really good idea. And I want to direct one." And she was like, "Okay." So she took the plays away, programming in, went, and actually it was 3 plays. I said, "These are the 3 I want." She was in, "Yes, they're the best out of the 5 out of this playbook, all with the same writer." And she was like, "You'll direct these 2, and I want you to be in this one." I was like, so I was like, and so I directed 2 of them, and I was in the other one as an actor, and I was like, "Okay," and that was it. And Rosie and I talk about this all the time. There's a thing in youth where, and it's not arrogance, it's this lack of fear. And it's just that thing of like, well, if I don't try now, when the hell am I going to try?
Yeah, exactly.
When you get older, doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah. I wish. Yeah, you're right. It does when you get a bit older. You're like, "Oh, I need to play it safe." I think I'm going to start taking my own advice a bit more now.
Well, I know I am. I've got projects that I want to do, and it's more about that thing of worrying about what it's. I think social media does this to us as well. It builds this anxiety and worrying about what other people think and what other people out there are like looking at and going, "Oh, what you doing now, and what's this?" And you know what? I don't care about. I have this one life. And with everything that's been going on, these thousands of people have lost their lives with this current pandemic. If you don't go for it now, when are you going to go for it? And it's just like, take those risks. Absolutely. Don't risk it all, but risk something. I think when you take that risk, it's like when if ever I go to a casino, I don't walk in going, "I want to win some money." I go, "Oh, I can afford to lose this £50 tonight, so I'll make it last as long as I can." That's it. You lose money, right?
Yeah.
But you check what your risks, like, what can I lose? Great. Are you happy with that? Yes. Are you going to be up all night with it? No. Are you going to feel sick if you lose that? No. Okay. Well, that's something I can lose. Great. Now I'll go and take that risk. Is that something that you?
100%. That's a really good analogy, I think. But also as well, I think it's probably worth pointing out that it can get quite pricey to put theatre on. It can get quite expensive. But there's always ways to go about it. There's always clever ways you can go about it. How you can cash flow how you can cash flow a show. So, but yeah, I think that's a really good analogy. I have fun with it. I think you touched on the point with social media. Like, there's going to be so many haters out there. Just let them hate. Like, who cares? Like, as long as you're having fun, as long as you're taking the risks you want to take, then just go for it. Like, I took the risk in sending that email. Well, it wasn't really a risk. I was a bit drunk, but I I sent the email, and then it's got me to where here. It's got me doing the CCI talk. So
it's happened with us as well. We've written emails and we've just gone, and we sit there nervous about writing it, and we're like, oh my God, just send it. Do you know what I mean? You know, or not even email. Sometimes it's a letter, depending on. I think that's the thing as well. Know who you're in this start out as a producer, where you want to produce. Know who you're contacting. Do a bit of research on them or the venue and how they like to be contacted. So if you're looking to maybe co-produce with someone, or you've got this thing, and like I said, maybe you've done it a few venues already, and you want to go to a bigger producer to see, you know, there's a producer out there that we sat down and we were going to email about a certain project a couple of years ago, and we looked and we went, do you know what? No, that's not going to go anywhere. This person is old school. We're going to write a letter, and we sent a letter, and we got a letter back within 5 days. Because that's how that person operates. They're not someone who operates on email and all that. Yes, they have emails, but that's not how you get through to that person. So, you know, it's about that as well. When you take these risks, don't really make value in what risk you're taking, and make sure you've done your back end research, right?
Yeah, I think it's really easy, and I get this quite a lot from newer producers, is to send an email with an attachment of the tour pack, and then that's it. And then, to be honest, I don't care. There's so much more in picking up the phone, or at least just sending an initial email saying, I've got a really, really good idea. Do you have 5 minutes to chat?
Right.
And then I'm a massive, massive fan of picking up the phone. Like emails with attachments, with zero context, with zero sort of introduction, I hate so much. I love speaking over the phone.
And find out who you're writing to, right? Know who
the amount of times I've been called Dear James. No, Michael James Cox. No. So no, you're right.
We get higher a lot. And also the same thing as when you're writing to a casting director, when you're writing to a producer or a director or an agent, don't mass email. You've got to make sure that so even if you want to, you know, get your product out there, and you see all these venues that you want to, and you just mass email, you know, dear programmer, whatever it is, it's not going to go anywhere, because
it's awful.
They're not going to take you seriously. You need to speak to them, because surely you have a list of questions to ask about the venue that you want to go to. Yeah. It's not as simple as, will you take my show?
No. Higher. I love that one. Higher.
we get higher exclamation mark. I see your casting. Can I be seen? No CV, no link to show reel, nothing else.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's not good, is it?
It's pretty simple.
But yeah, you're right. I think research and risk is good. Definitely.
And that is a fantastic way to end it. I love that. Research and risk. Mr. Michael James Cox, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for your time as a new dad. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. That's why my eyes are so small at the minute. 5:30 I was up this morning.
Wonderful. I love it. I know it's not the same, but my cat comes and taps me on the shoulder at 5:30, and I'm like, really? Mate, thank you so much. That has been absolutely wonderful. I'm going to check you out the live stream, and we'll see you very soon. Yeah.
Thank you, mate. Yeah. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
There you go. What a way to start your hump day. I might have to stop saying that. Sounds a bit weird. Thank you so much to Mr. Michael James Cox. So much information there. I hope you found that helpful. What a wonderful, insightful world into programming and producing. And again, about that, get out there and do your own work, do your own stuff. Something else I want to tell you about. We are doing a new thing in October. Ooh, and it is 30-minute coffee mornings. Oh, what? Yes, coffee mornings. So basically, what is that? I hear you scream and cry. We want to help you promote whatever you're doing. So if you have a cabaret, if you have a show, if you have a play on, if you're doing a reading, if you're doing an online piece, whatever it is, it has to be within TV, film and theatre. We don't care what it is. It's not to come on and go, we're looking for actors, but it's to promote something that's already in place. We want you on. 30 minutes, coffee in hand. You're going to come and chat to us, and everyone on the CCI. We will be promoting that later today. So you've heard it here first. Thank you so much to Mr. Michael James Cox. Up next, we have the machine, the wonder, who is Matthew Shaw. And he is here at 12 o'clock with old school legit versus modern legit. Thanks for watching. We will see you a little bit later on. Bye-bye.